Welcome to NVL Travel Documentary. They call it paradise on the Pacific, palm trees, pastel skies, a beachfront playground in the heart of California. But behind the glow of Venice, something darker lurks. This isn't just a travel documentary. It's a descent into the underbelly of one of America's most iconic coastal cities, where million-dollar homes share sidewalks with makeshift tents, and the American dream collides with addiction, poverty, and silence. On this journey with NVL Travel Documentary, we uncover the hidden truths of Venice, the rise in homelessness, the shadow economy of street survival, and the silent war with meth, fentanyl, and forgotten people. Because behind every palm tree, there's a story they don't put in the travel brochures. This is more than just facts about countries. This is the truth they don't teach in classrooms. Welcome to the country documentary they never meant for you to see. Number 1. Paradise and Poverty, the Contradictions of Venice, California. Venice, California. Just the name brings to mind sun-drenched beaches, the colorful chaos of the boardwalk, and a 3,000 community of artists, skaters, and free spirits. It's a place that feels alive, a living postcard of California dreamin'. But peel back the postcard, and another reality bleeds through. Just a few blocks away from million-dollar beachfront homes, rows of makeshift tents line the sidewalks, hugging the edges of parks, parking lots, and the sandy shoreline. In this same neighborhood where luxury cars glide past yoga studios and organic cafes, hundreds of unhoused individuals are struggling to survive, sleeping on cardboard, shielding themselves from the wind with plastic tarps. This stark divide is more than just a visual contrast. It's a crisis in motion. According to data released in early 2016, Los Angeles County is now home to more than 75,000 people experiencing homelessness, a record high, with Venice alone accounting for a significant share. That's more than the entire population of many small towns, living unsheltered in the heart of one of the wealthiest regions in the country. What makes Venice so unsettling isn't just the homelessness, it's the juxtaposition. The raw, painful presence of poverty, rubbing shoulders with opulence. It's a place where you can buy a vegan smoothie for $15 while stepping over a sleeping bag, where wellness retreats and crisis tents exist on the same stretch of road. And the question that lingers like sea fog in the early morning, how did we get here, and why does it feel like we're just watching it happen? Number 2. Surviving Venice. Life on the edge of the American dream. Behind the palm trees and ocean breeze, Venice is also home to a staggering 5,000 unhoused residents. That's right, 5,000 human stories unfolding in tents, public parks, and tucked-away corners of this famous beachfront community. Many of them live in flimsy tents, just steps from the boardwalk, pitched beside the sand where tourists sunbathe by day and the Pacific wind howls by night. Others take shelter in public restrooms or find temporary refuge in abandoned buildings, long forgotten by the city, but now serving as a last line of defense against the elements. Their daily reality is a tightrope walk between survival and despair. Without stable shelter, many sleep on park benches, under freeway overpasses, or in thin plastic tents that offer little protection from the cold or heat. A restful night is rare. Most sleep lightly, if at all, constantly alert to the threat of theft, assault, or being moved by authorities with nowhere else to go. Basic needs, clean water, hygiene, food, medical care, are luxuries. Imagine starting each day unsure of where to use a restroom, how to clean your wounds, or where your next meal will come from. 1 in 4 homeless individuals in Los Angeles reports having a chronic illness, yet accessing health care is a maze of waiting lists and closed doors. Safety is another daily battle. For women, LGBTQ+ individuals, and the elderly, the streets can be especially dangerous. A 2024 city audit found that over 40% of unhoused women in Venice reported experiencing physical violence in the last year alone. And then there's the silent erosion, mental fatigue, the deep ache of exhaustion, and the psychological weight of invisibility. Day after day of sleep deprivation, malnutrition, and social isolation wears down the body, yes, but even more so, it chips away at the spirit. In Venice, California, where oceanfront condos rent for over $10,000 a month, thousands of people live without running water, without a lock on the door, without even a bed to call their own. Isn't just a housing issue, it's a human issue. Number 3, the real causes of homelessness. It's not what you think. To understand the homeless crisis in Venice, we have to stop looking at tents and start looking at systems. Because homelessness is not a coincidence. It's not a personal failure. It's the end result of layer upon layer of economic pressure, institutional neglect, and systemic injustice. Let's take it piece by piece. First, the cost of simply staying alive. In the past 10 years, rent in Los Angeles has climbed by more than 50%. Let that sink in. A one-bedroom apartment that might have cost $1,200 a decade ago now demands well over $2,000 a month. That's not luxury, that's average. And for low-income residents, this spike feels like a slow-motion eviction. Now, you might think, aren't there affordable housing programs? Yes, but the supply is a drop in the ocean. Across LA County, for every 60,000 people who need low-cost housing, there are only about 10,000 units available. That means for every one person who finds shelter, 5 others are left behind, literally, out in the cold. Second, the fragility of financial security. In a city as expensive as this, it doesn't take much to spiral. A single pink slip, a medical diagnosis, a rent increase. Suddenly, you're not making ends meet. You're losing your place in line. During the COVID-19 pandemic, this domino effect became painfully real. Roughly 1 in every 5 people who are now homeless in Venice lost their housing directly because of pandemic job loss or financial collapse. A virus didn't just attack the body, it exposed how close so many people already lived to the edge. The invisible battles, mental health and addiction. Nearly 1 in 3 people on the streets of Venice suffer from severe mental health disorders, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. These are not passing moods. These are lifelong conditions that require structure, support, and medication. But when the support systems are overloaded or underfunded, many go untreated. An untreated illness on the streets often spirals into something darker. That's where addiction creeps in, not as a cause, but as a desperate form of self-medication. An estimated 25% of Venice's homeless population struggles with alcohol dependence. Another 15% use drugs like methamphetamine or opioids, and about 10% turn to cannabis to calm anxiety or trauma. When pain becomes the norm, numbing it feels like the only escape. Fourth, the failure of the safety net. This crisis isn't just about what people suffer from, it's about what they can't access. Less than 40% of those with mental illness are able to get regular medical treatment. Even fewer, just 3 out of every 10 people battling addiction, can stay in recovery programs long enough to truly heal. Why? Because programs are underfunded, overbooked, and buried in bureaucracy. It's like handing someone a map, but erasing all the road. Fifth, the heavy hand of systemic inequality. Homelessness doesn't hit all communities the same. African Americans make up just 9 to 10% of LA's population, but they represent over 34% of the homeless. That's not chance. That's centuries of inequality in housing, jobs, and access to education. Latino populations also face higher rates of homelessness, often locked out of resources due to language barriers, immigration status, or generational poverty. It's hard to climb when the ladder is missing rungs, or worse, when it was never built for you to begin with. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that homelessness is not just about not having a roof. It's about not having a system that works, not having a path forward, not having someone to catch you when you fall. And until we fix what's underneath, no amount of tents, shelters, or quick fixes will make the crisis go away. Number 4. The faces behind the statistics. Who are the unhoused in Venice? When we talk about the homeless, it can sound abstract, like a group of people far removed from our daily lives. But these aren't just numbers on a chart. These are neighbors, veterans, parents, survivors, and the statistics. They tell a story that words alone can't capture. First, where do people actually live when they have nowhere to go? In Venice, nearly 60% of the unhoused population lives right along the beach. That's right, the same sand where tourists lay towels and kids build sandcastles also serves as a shelter of last resort for hundreds. Another 25% take refuge in public parks, trying to find a patch of grass where they won't be asked to move. And the remaining 15%? They live on the streets, along busy roads, under storefront awnings, or wherever a slab of concrete can double as a bed. But where they sleep is only part of the story. Who they are might surprise you. Let's talk about identity. Roughly 10% of unhoused individuals in Venice are veterans, people who once served their country and now sleep in tents. Many of them suffer from PTSD, trauma, or disabilities, and the support they were promised hasn't always come through. Then there are the single parents, mostly mothers, who make up about 20% of the homeless population. Imagine trying to raise a child without a home, without a fridge. Age also plays a role. Over 40% of the homeless in Venice are above the age of 40. These are not rebellious teenagers or runaways. These are middle-aged adults, many with work experience, families, and once stable lives. And when we look at gender, the imbalance is clear. 70% of the homeless are men, while 30% are women. But keep in mind, women on the street often face higher risks of violence, exploitation, and trauma. COVID-19 didn't just bring a virus, it brought displacement. About 20% of Venice's homeless residents lost their housing because of the pandemic's economic blow. They didn't make bad choices. They lost jobs, got sick, or had to care for loved ones, and the rent kept rising anyway. And now, let's talk about race and the injustice buried in the data. Black residents make up just 10% of Venice's overall population, but when it comes to homelessness, they represent 35%. That's over 1 in every 3. This is not a reflection of personal failure. This is a mirror held up to our systems, to decades of discrimination in housing, employment, and healthcare. So when you pass a tent, remember, it's not just shelter from the wind, it's a symbol of all the places our society has failed to shelter people from falling. These numbers are more than statistics, they're a wake-up call. Because behind every percentage is a person. Number 5, when crisis spreads, how homelessness affects everyone. It's easy to think of homelessness as something that only affects the people experiencing it, the ones in tents, in parks, in shelters. But in truth, this crisis doesn't stay contained. Like rising water, it seeps into every corner of the community. For many who live in Venice, in condos, cottages, or cozy beachside homes, the surge in homelessness has brought a mix of compassion and concern. Parents worry about safety when walking their kids to school. Joggers passing through the park hesitate when they see tents growing in number. The sense of community, for some, feels shaken, not by the presence of unhoused neighbors, but by the city's inability to manage the situation with care and clarity. For them, the crisis hits the bottom line. Storefronts near encampments report fewer customers. Tourists sometimes turn away from shops when the sidewalks feel unsafe or unsanitary. Owners, many already struggling after the pandemic, are caught in the middle, trying to keep their businesses alive while also not wanting to further criminalize or push away the vulnerable people living just outside their doors. But perhaps the biggest fracture lies in the debate itself, how we should respond. Some call for stricter enforcement, remove tents, clear sidewalks, relocate encampments. Others argue for long-term solutions, housing first, mental health care, job training, and deep investment in prevention. This clash between short-term control and long-term compassion has divided neighborhoods, city councils, even families. Protests have erupted. Council meetings grow heated. Everyone seems to agree that the status quo isn't working, but few agree on what should replace it. The reality is, homelessness doesn't just take a toll on the people living without homes. It weighs on entire communities. It tests our patience, our empathy, our politics, and ultimately, our humanity. So the question becomes, do we push the problem out of sight, or do we finally look it in the eye and choose to fix it? Number 6. Real solutions, not band-aids. Can Venice turn this around? There's a proven model called housing first, and the idea is as simple as it is powerful. Give people a place to live first, then help them recover, find work, and rebuild. Not the other way around. No endless paperwork, no prove you deserve a roof. Just a door, a bed, a stable foundation. This model has worked, not just in theory, but in practice, from Finland to Canada to Utah. And yet here in Venice, we still have over 5,000 unhoused individuals and only about 2,000 housing units available. The goal now? Expand that number to at least 6,000. But we can't do it alone. It's going to take a coalition. City leaders, nonprofits, businesses, and most importantly, us. Venice has space, empty warehouses, abandoned offices, public lots gathering dust. These can be turned into housing if we have the will. We also need to rethink construction rules. Right now, it can take years to get permits to build affordable housing. But what if we encourage tiny homes, backyard apartments, modular builds that are fast, flexible, and cost-affordable? Zoning laws don't have to be barriers. They can be blueprints for change. One of the fastest ways to prevent homelessness? Keep people housed in the first place. That means rent control, direct financial assistance, and expanding housing voucher programs that help people bridge the gap between income and rent. It also means encouraging landlords to open their doors, not just to profits, but to people in need. Housing alone isn't enough. We need to meet people where they are. That means combining mental health therapy, addiction recovery, job training, and employment support all under one coordinated system. A place to live and a path to healing. When people have stability, support, and a sense of purpose, they don't just survive, they begin to thrive. Real change won't come from policies alone. It comes when we shift perceptions, when we stop seeing people as the homeless and start seeing them as neighbors in need of support. That means educating the public, fighting stigma, and creating spaces for dialogue between residents, business owners, and local leaders. It's not about choosing between safety and compassion. It's about realizing the two go hand in hand. Because the truth is, when we lift others up, we all rise. The tents on the beach, the arguments in town halls, the numbers rising year after year, they're symptoms of inaction. But it's not too late, not for Venice, not for Los Angeles, not for the thousands still waiting for someone to believe they deserve better. The question is no longer if we can fix this. It's when we'll decide to. Number 7, hope in the chaos. The programs making a difference. In the middle of this storm, there is hope. Though the crisis feels overwhelming, across Venice small sparks of action are lighting the way, turning frustration into forward motion. They're not perfect, they're not magic, but they're real, and they're growing. This initiative offers more than just a cot for the night. It provides temporary housing, access to medical care, and crucially, job training. It's based on a simple belief that people can rebuild their lives if we give them the tools and the time. Here, someone can arrive after months on the street and leave with skills, a resume, and a second chance. You might think of them as enforcers, but in Venice, they're often something more. Trained not just in public safety, but in compassion, these rangers work the parks not just to keep order, but to connect unhoused individuals with services, guide them towards support, and step in before things escalate. Of course, they can't do it alone. What they need now is better training, more resources, and the full backing of the city to be effective agents of both safety and care. Some shop owners, instead of turning away, are stepping in. They're offering part-time jobs, mentorship programs, and a sense of belonging that goes beyond a paycheck. They know that dignity doesn't start with handouts. It starts with being seen as capable again. This kind of partnership between social effort and private initiative may be one of the strongest keys to lasting change. So yes, the road is long. Yes, there's more work to do. But hope isn't a theory in Venice. It's happening, slowly, quietly, sometimes imperfectly, but undeniably. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about solving homelessness. It's about restoring humanity. And that, more than anything, is something worth rebuilding. Homelessness in Venice isn't just a local issue. It's a mirror reflecting the cracks in our society. Cracks shaped by inequality, by broken systems, by silence and stigma. Behind every statistic we've shown you is a face, a name, a person with a past, a present, and if given the chance, a future. They are not invisible. They are not hopeless. They are But change doesn't come from sympathy alone. It takes action. It takes policy. It takes people, leaders who care, neighbors who show up, and individuals like you watching this, who believe that dignity should never be a luxury. We need long-term commitment from governments, from communities, and yes, from each one of us. Because this isn't about choosing sides. It's about choosing humanity. At Social Security, we believe stories like this matter. We create them not just to inform, but to ignite, to spark awareness, dialogue, and most importantly, action. So don't turn away. If this video moved you, even just a little, hit that like button to let us know. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next story that needs to be heard. And share this video not for the algorithm, but for the people still waiting to be seen. Because when one of us is left without a home, we all lose something. And when we lift someone up, we rise together.